This video is talking about algebra. This is an introduction to algebra, and there'll be other videos as well talking about different rules within algebra. So this word algebra, it's where we are using letters or in fact other symbols that represent numbers or quantities within mathematics, often referred to as unknown variables. So things that we don't know the value of necessarily straight away, but things where the value could in fact change for different reasons. Within standard arithmetic, you may be very happy with the fact that 3 plus 4 is exactly the same as or equal to 4 plus 3, which we know is 7. In algebra, you're much more likely to see things like x plus y, which we know is equal to y plus x. Here we're using different letters, in fact of the alphabet, instead of numbers that we know. You may already be able to solve mathematical problems that are written in this sort of format. If it was a 3 plus an empty box is equal to 7, you might already be able to say, well, I know that 3 plus 4 would equal 7, so therefore the value that's got to go in this box has got to be 4. You could be using the inverse operations to say, well, I know that 7 subtract 3 is 4, therefore the number that's got to go in this box is 4. So we are using, we are in fact using algebra here because this box was representing an unknown value, and we were using our mathematical skills to work out what that empty box was. But we mainly use letters of the alphabet rather than symbols with algebra, purely because it's easier for putting things into print, because of finding letters on the alphabet. They're easier to find on a keyboard than they are if you're searching for different symbols. And the reason we use algebra is it's quicker, it saves us time. I might want to be talking about the cost of an apple. I can see what an apple looks like, I can see it in words written down, but that's an awful lot of writing. What I want to be able to do is to just say, well, I'm not going to write all of those words. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, the cost of an apple, that's represented by the letter A. And in the same way, I can say the cost of a banana, I'm going to say, is represented by this letter B, and the cost of a clementine is represented by the letter C. So now I have got my letters of the alphabet, A, B and C, to represent the cost of an apple, the cost of a banana and the cost of a clementine. Much quicker for me to write down A's, B's and C's than it was all of those words. And you're probably well aware of the fact that if you walk into one shop to buy an apple, it might cost a different amount than walking into another shop, or if you're going to the market to buy one. So the price of an apple can change considerably depending on the time of the year, even the time of day. If it's at the end of the day and the market's closing down, they want to get rid of stuff, so they'll be selling the fruit off cheaper. It could be a different variety of apple. It could be an apple that's in season. It could be an apple that's come from a different country. The bananas could be really big bananas, or they could be smaller bananas. So the prices of these things would change, and so that's why I don't know the price of the apple before I walk into the shop. It is something that's unknown, and it does vary. It does change. So they are unknown variables. So using algebra here to represent these things makes it easier for me to say, well, if I go into a shop and I buy an apple and a banana, well, I know it's going to be A plus B. That's the cost of buying one apple and one banana. I don't know what the values are at the moment, but I can represent it using these bits, A plus B, rather than having to write it all down in words. So in this particular shop, I've been told that the price of an apple is 20p and the price of a banana is 25p. So knowing that I wanted to buy an apple and a banana, I can work out what the cost of those two items would be. I can substitute in my 20 for the A and my 25 for the B. So A plus B is going to be exactly the same as saying, well, it's 20 plus 25, which I know is 45. So then I would know that that cost would be 45p. There are many rules that we need to understand when we're working within algebra, and these will all be explained in other videos. So look for all the other videos to explain all of these. So one term on its own would be x, for instance, and then expression is when you join different terms together. So x plus y becomes an expression. And then an equation is where you've got an expression that has an equal sign in it and it tells you what it's equal to. So an equation would be x plus y is equal to 10, for example. So a term is just the value of x or y. Put two terms together, it makes an expression, and when you know what that is equal to, like this, it becomes an equation. Within algebra, we do not use the times sign for multiplication. As you will have noticed already, quite often I use the letter x. In fact, I would write the x as a curly x or a script x to avoid the confusion between the multiplication sign and the letter x. However, we avoid using the multiplication sign in algebra. Instead, we simply write the two terms next to each other to mean multiplication. So a b actually means a multiplied by b. So that's a multiplied by b. We wouldn't write a times b, we would just write ab. So if you see ab or two terms written next to each other, that does mean that those two terms are multiplied together. Sometimes you may see it with dots, but usually you'll just see it just the two terms written next to each other. That avoids any confusion with x signs and multiplication signs, or the letter x is getting mixed up with each other. And similarly, if I wanted to say that I'd got 3 lots of a, or 3 times a, 3 multiplied by a, I would not write 3 times a, I would just write 3a. And also, we do not use the division sign within algebra, so you won't see the division sign. You will see the division bar or the fraction bar used instead. So if I wanted to write a divided by 2, I wouldn't write it like that. I would actually write a divided by 2 like that. So I'm using the fraction bar, the division bar, instead of the division sign. So the golden rules for us to remember with algebra: letters are used, or it could have been symbols, but it's usually letters that are used to represent unknown variables. They could be numbers or quantities. Write a curly x for the letter x, so your x should look like that. Don't write the multiplication sign. If you want to write 3 times a, you write 3a. If you want to write a times b, you would write ab. You just write the letters, the different terms next to each other to mean that you're multiplying 2 terms together. And so do not use the division sign. Instead, use the fraction bar, the division bar. So you could write, for a divided by 2, you would write a divided by 2 like that.